Hey guys, it's Melanie. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to do my November wrap up, my current reads, and my December TBR. So stay tuned. Okay, so if you're like, whoa, what did she do to her hair? You should watch my video that I just recently posted of my extreme makeover disaster. This was after a lot of other issues. So I'm going to put that link down below. You should definitely watch that video. Yeah. Okay, so let's get into my November wrap up. Okay, so for the month of November, I read a total of 6 books. 2 of those were audiobooks and 4 of them were physical. I didn't have any 1 or 2 stars. I had 2 3 stars, I had 3 4 stars, and I had 1 5 star. And I read a total of 2,195 pages. Okay, so the first book that I read in November was Rebel Angels by Libba Bray. This was actually my 5-star read. I loved it. I actually listened to the audiobook of this, and just like in the first one, the narrator does an amazing job at telling this story. All the voices, just everything is done so well. I loved it. The story's great, the narrator's great. It's great. I have to choose my words carefully because if you haven't read the first one, you should definitely read the first one, which is A Great and Terrible Beauty. But I don't want to spoil anything for this one. Okay, so in this book, our main character, Gemma Doyle, is going home to London for the holidays, and she's having to help care for her father. She's attending lavish balls. She has a whirlwind romance with a boy named Simon Denby. But Gemma's visions come back and they're stronger than before, and she's having visions of these 3 girls in white. And they're trying to show her what happened to them and to warn her. And Gemma, Felicity, and Anne, they all go back to the realms where Gemma has to find the temple, find the magic, and defeat Cersei. And that's really all I want to say about this because I don't want to go and spoil anything. But loved it so much, and I'm going to be really sad when this trilogy is over. Okay, so the second book I read in November was Otherworld by Jason Segel and Kirsten Miller. So I gave this book a 3.5. I thought it was just okay. It wasn't fabulous, but it wasn't terrible. It did have a few unexpected twists, which I always appreciate. And the second half of the book is definitely better than the first half. I actually really enjoyed the second half of it. Okay, so this book is about this company has developed this virtual reality world that's just a little bit too real. And the company, and that's actually what it's called, the company, is up to some shady business. And our main character, Simon, is out to put a stop to them and help save his friend who may not necessarily want to be saved. So this book actually ended with a cliffhanger, which left me wanting to read the second book. I don't know if I would buy the second book, but I would definitely check it out from the library or something, borrow it maybe. Okay, so the next book I read was Pretty Dead by Francesca Leah Block. And this book was way better than I actually expected it to be. I gave this book a 4. I was expecting a cheesy vampire romance. And it did have some of that in there. But there was a lot more to this story. And there was a lot of twists and turns that I really wasn't expecting. This story is about this vampire girl who's been a vampire for many lifetimes, for hundreds of years. And all of a sudden, she starts experiencing things that she hasn't experienced since becoming a vampire. Things that you can only experience as a mortal. And she's starting to experience these things. And it seems like all of a sudden, she's becoming mortal. And she's like, what the crap is going on? And yeah, it was actually really, really good. And I very much enjoyed it. And it's a very short book. It was like around 200 pages. I flew through it. I loved it. It was fun. And I highly recommend this. And I actually will be reading more books by her because I just really enjoyed it. And apparently, Cassandra Clare, she also enjoyed it because she has 2 blurbs on this book. Okay, so the next book that I read was The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. And I listened to the audiobook for this, and it was really good. It was very moving and relevant, and I don't know if this was based on actual events or not, but there's so many things in here that remind me of stuff that I've heard on the news, and it's just sad. But it's about this girl named Star who witnesses a male friend of hers being killed by a police officer after being pulled over and not having done anything wrong. There were times that I definitely teared up while I was listening to this. And not only was this book so well written, it was also very well narrated. The narrator really portrayed Star's fears and her anger and just all of it. Okay, so I actually gave this book a 4.75. It was almost a 5, but there was one thing that actually kept me from giving it a 5, and it wasn't necessarily the book as it was the narrator of the audiobook. Now, like I said, I really enjoyed how this narrator portrayed all the emotions and how they told the story. They were great with all the different voices, except for one character. And it was, I think, the only white girl in the entire story. The narrator made her sound like this stupid airhead valley girl. Like, she talked like this, and just, it was really bad. I really didn't like that. To me, it kind of portrayed it like we all sound like that, and we don't. Now, granted, I didn't particularly like this character, but that one part, I didn't really care for how she was portrayed that way. Other than that, everything else was amazing, and if it hadn't been for that little part, I totally would have given this a 5. It was a really, really good book. Okay, so the next thing I read is Confessions of a Shopaholic by Sophie Kinsella, and this is a story about a girl who likes to shop and shop and shop and shop. Only problem is she can't afford any of it. And this girl is not about the cheap stuff. She likes the beautiful and the name brand. She wants people to look at her and notice the things that she has. And in a way, the first part of this book is actually very sad. I mean, most people probably wouldn't relate that with this book, but she's drowning in debt. She has no real focus in her life. She's got debt collectors hunting her down, and she's just generally missing something in life. That's where shopping comes in. She uses shopping to fill that void. She tries to quit cold turkey. She tries making more money, and nothing really seems to work out for her. It's only after she discovers something important and that really means something to her that she really starts to grow and starts making some changes in her life. I hate to admit that I saw a lot of myself in this character. We do a lot of the same kind of things, like shopping to cheer ourselves up, or flipping from one thing to another that we want to do with our life. Or even just the fact that she makes these plans and figures out how the whole rest of her life will be based on that plan. Like, okay, I'm going to do this. And because I'm doing this, this is going to happen, 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 all for the rest of her life. And then either she changes her mind or something happens and she's not able to do something in the plan. Then she goes and changes the whole rest of her plan, and she plans out the entire rest of her life all over again. And I totally do the same thing. This is a really good, fun read, and I highly recommend it. I gave this book a 4.5. And the last book that I read in November was Single Rider by Sky Leah Colette. This was an ebook sent to me by the author for review. My opinions are my own for this review. I'm not getting paid or anything like that. I gave this book a 3.5. It was a good, solid, erotic romance. It was very hot and steamy, and I did enjoy that. I also really enjoyed the character growth of Kinsey, who is our main character in the book. This book was very well written and flowed very nicely. I did actually have to look up occasionally what a few of the Australian terms meant because, well, the author is Australian, and so is our main character, and this whole thing's based in Australia. And there are terms that they use that we don't, or that we have a different word for, like singlet. That's just one of the ones that comes to mind. They call it a singlet, we call it a tank top. And I didn't know that. Anyway, I didn't really mind having to look these things up because, I learned something new. Like, you just might have learned something new. Now, I went into this book knowing that there was going to be sex and drug use, and I was okay with that. I did have a problem, though, with a big chunk of the beginning where it was just kind of a wake up, do some drugs, go party, have some sex, and then repeat, and repeat, and then repeat. And it was just kind of like, okay, is this all there is? And, I mean, it was okay. Now, when it finally started progressing past that and we got to the part where the love interest, Max, really comes into the picture and their stories start developing, that's when I started to really enjoy the book. I liked their story and I liked this whole relationship development and seeing them grow together. It was cute and steamy. Very, very steamy. I really enjoyed, from that point forward, I loved the book. But it was that first chunk that I was just like, yeah. Anyway, so that's what I read in November. Now on to my current reads. I'm currently reading Ella, A Stepmom's Tale by J.L. Higgs. I was sent the ebook of this for review by the author, and I'm actually really excited about this one. I've only gotten through like the first 9 pages, but it is so cute. Okay, so we have this reporter, Sylvia Stark. She is going to go and interview Cinderella's evil stepmother, and things kind of go crazy from that point forward. Her and the cameraman end up being kidnapped and rescued by Humpty Dumpty, and Sylvia is determined to find out what's really going on in the magical land where fairy tales began. And it just sounds kind of crazy but super cute. It's, another one of these fairy tale retelling type things, and I love those. They're like my favorite. I'm also currently listening to the audiobook of The Sweet Far Thing by Libba Bray, which is the last book in the Gemma Doyle series, and I am so sad for this thing to end, but oh my goodness, this last book is like a beast. It's like 800 and something, almost 900 pages, but I don't mind because it is so good. And I'm listening to it and I'm loving listening to it, and oh my gosh, it's so good. I can already pretty much guarantee that will be another 5-star book. And then the last book that I am also currently reading is Bad Reception by S.C. Wright. I was sent this by the author to review on my channel, and I'm so excited about it because the first physical book that I've been sent by an author, and that's just so exciting. And it's something of interest to me. Listening to your parents is hard work. As a teenager, you're always right, of course, but to them, everything you do comes up short. Kana is nearing the end of her teenage years and is already a young woman. With no career prospects, no goals in life, she just can't seem to attain her family's expectations. On her 19th birthday, an accident caused by her own shortcomings causes a domino effect of chaos, turning her life from boring and mundane to terrifying and supernatural. Kidnapped by a vampire and her chauffeur, she ends up the hostage of a host of strange creatures. Chloe, a mild-mannered Cajun vampire, Vincent, a Welsh werewolf with a penchant for piracy and a history of drug abuse, Gabriella, a Spanish immortal who cannot die, and her daughter, a shapeshifter. Will she find her way back home to her family, or is family more than blood and kin? It sounded really interesting to me, and I'm excited to read it. Okay, now on to my December TBR. So, as some of you may know, Zoe over at Read by Zoe is having another 24-hour readathon, and she's doing a holiday edition, and that is on Saturday, December 9th, and I plan on doing that. So my plan is to tackle some of this TBR during her readathon. Okay, so the first two books on my TBR, I want to reread Yellow Brick War by Danielle Page, and I would like to read for the first time The End of Oz by Danielle Page. These are the last two books in the Dorothy Must Die series. Now, I want to reread this one because the last half of it, I was practically falling asleep because it was during one of those 24-hour readathons, and there was some crazy stuff going on towards the end that I remember, but my brain was kind of fuzzy on it, so I wanted to reread this before getting into this. Though I don't know if I'm going to do that during this readathon. I think I would like to take my time a little bit more on these because they are the last two in the series. Okay, so the next book on my TBR is Maybe a Novel by Caroline Starr Rose. And this is a middle grade novel, and it's actually written in verse, so it's like this. I imagine this is a very quick read, and it's based in Christmas time. And it says, I watch the wagon until I see nothing on the open plain. For the first time ever, I am alone. May is helping out on a neighbor's homestead just until Christmas, her pa promises. But when a terrible turn of events leaves her all alone, she must try to find food and fuel and courage to make it through the approaching winter. This gorgeous novel in verse by Caroline Starr Rose will transport you to the Kansas prairie, to the endless grassland, and to the suffocating closeness of the sod house where May is stranded. May's straightforward yet eloquent voice and her bravery, determination, and willingness to risk everything will capture your heart. And I just thought it sounded like a cute little read, and I thought it would be a quick read, something that would be good for this readathon. And it's only 225 pages, but like I said, it's written in verse, so there's a lot of empty space here. And this is going to go super fast. And it's a Christmassy read, so it kind of fits with the theme. Okay, so the next book for December is Winter Moon by Dean Koontz. And he is one of my absolute favorite authors. He's big on mystery, thriller, suspense, that kind of thing. And I've yet to read one of his books that I didn't like. I love all of his books. So let me just read you what it says inside here. Winter Moon. In Los Angeles, a hot Hollywood director high on PCP turns a city street into a fiery apocalypse. 5 die. Heroic LAPD officer Jack McCarvey is badly wounded and lands in the hospital for months, uncertain he'll walk again. While he's out of commission, his wife and young son are left to defend themselves against both the criminals that control an increasingly violent city and the dead director's cult of fanatic fans. In a lonely corner of Montana, Eduardo Fernandez, the father of McGarvey's murdered partner, witnesses a strange nocturnal sight. The stand of pines outside his house suddenly glows with eerie amber light, and Fernandez senses a watcher in the winter woods. As the seasons change, the very creatures of the forest seem in league with a mysterious presence. Fernandez is caught up in a series of chilling incidents that escalate toward a confrontation that could rob him of his sanity or his life, or both. As events careen out of control, the McCarvey family is drawn to Fernandez's Montana ranch. In that isolated place, they discover their destiny in a terrifying and fiercely suspenseful encounter with a hostile, utterly ruthless, and enigmatic enemy from which neither the living nor the dead are safe. It sounds really good. There he is. He's on the back of all his books. Okay, next is Wayfarer, which is the sequel to Passengers by Alexandra Bracken. And, well, I'm not really going to tell you anything about this one because I don't want to spoil anything if you haven't already read the first one. But little tiny bit of information about the first one. Think pirates, time travel, romance, adventure. Yeah. is great. Okay, so for the next book, I actually let Becca pick something off of my shelves that I was just like, pick something for me to read. And she picked this book that I've had for a couple of years now. And it's just this little bare hardback book. It's old and it's called Pearl by Tabitha King. And I think I got this at like a library book sale or something. I don't know. But I bought it just because of the name, Pearl. Because a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, we had an exchange student named Pearl. And I was just like, oh, it's Pearl. Bought it not knowing anything at all about this book. So I just looked it up on Goodreads, and I'm going to read that to you so we both find out what in the world this book is actually about, because apparently I'm going to read it this month. So it says, Pearl Dickinson comes to Nod's Ridge only to claim an inheritance, but unexpectedly decides to stay, upsetting the tiny New England town's equilibrium with her exotic beauty. Settling in, she buys a local diner and turns it into a thriving gathering place. But her simple desire for a place of her own becomes complicated when she stumbles into not one, but two love affairs with two very different but equally troubled men. When the seething rivalry between the men explodes into violence, Pearl becomes more than just an object of local gossip. She becomes a power to heal or destroy the community and herself. This gripping novel illuminates the depths and desires of an independent woman and exposes some very dark truths about small town life. Okay, it actually sounds really good, and I'm looking forward to reading it. You know that saying, never judge a book by its cover? I mean, if you were to judge this by its cover, you would guess it's a very boring book. I'm looking forward to it. Okay, and then the last thing I have for December, and I plan on doing this for the Readathon by Zoe. It is the Once Upon a Time Book Club. It is a special Christmas box that they had. It was one that didn't require a subscription or anything. It was just a one-time special Christmas box. I really was interested in this box before, but it's kind of on the pricier side. So when I saw that they had this one box available, I was like, yes, I want to try it. So the way this box goes, you have a book, and the book for this one is a Christmas theme book. While you're reading the book, every once in a while you'll come to pages that have a sticky note stuck on it. It'll say, open your gift or something like that. Anyway, so you go and there's like all these wrapped gifts in the box, and you find the gift that matches the page number for where your sticky note was. You open that up, and the gift kind of correlates with something that's going on in the story at that point. Now, I have seen unboxing videos of the subscription box for this, and a lot of times people will go and just open up all the gifts, and I mean, it's cool to see what their gifts were, but it goes along with things in the story, and so you really have to read the story. And so I wasn't sure if I was going to do an unboxing of it for my channel or just enjoy it for myself. And I thought I would just do that, just enjoy it for myself and not do any kind of video. But since we're doing a 24-hour readathon, this is going to be one of the things that I read for the readathon. So every time I'm doing my little check-in videos, I can say, okay, so it's time to open up whatever gift and open it up. And so it's going to be like an unboxing vlog, I guess, while I'm reading it. And so I thought that'd be really interesting. Don't know anything at all that's in this box. But isn't it so cute? I just can't stand how cute this is. It looks like a book. I just love it. Love it. Okay, so that is my November wrap-up and December TBR. Have you read any of these books? Did you like them? Did you not like them? Did you get that box? And what are you most looking forward to reading in December? Comment below and let me know. Well, that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give me a big thumbs up. If you'd like to see more videos like this, click that subscribe button down below. And until next time, bye!